Hi guys, John from B&B Campers. Just going to do your handover video on your IH motorhome. It's a 2002 based vehicle, and you can see they're all in very nice condition. Under the bonnet here, we've got your engine battery on the left hand side. Various fuses over the back there, all usually to do with the split charging functionality, which I will run you through later on. You've got your brake fluid attached to the servo just down the back there. Power steering fluid sits in this reservoir at the very front. Your engine oil gets topped up through this cap just here at the top, and your engine oil dipstick is this one just down here with the orange top. Your engine's coolant is in this reservoir over here on the right hand side, and you can see there the engine's cold as we speak, and it's sat just there between the minimum and maximum lines, which is absolutely perfect. The washer fluid reservoir is this one just down here with the blue top, and your air filter sits inside this box just here. To get into that, you literally just pull these little caps over and take them up. There's 3 of them, and then once you've done that, you'll be able to take the air filter out. You might not ever need to do that, but that's how you do it if you do. The fuel filter sits just behind that as well. But as for sort of general bits and pieces, that is about all I need to show you. Chassis plate is just in here. There may or may not be another one somewhere else. It's actually an IH one that they would have done, you know, after they've had it converted. But that's the original Fiat chassis plate there. And because the original colour of this vehicle is silver, you've got the Grigio steel silver paint colour and code there, 647 on there. If we carry on to the near side now, you'll see the fuel filler cap just in here. You will need your ignition key to get into that, and it is obviously diesel fuel that you need to put into this vehicle. The next locker along is the gas locker, properly lined with the fabric, as you'll see lined throughout the vehicle. So again, properly done with the metal lined cupboard in here. You've got space in here for one 13 kilo is the maximum you'd be able to fit in this locker here, but at the moment there is just the one 6 kilo propane bottle in there. Turn the bottle on, you go anti-clockwise around to the left, that turns it on, and clockwise around to the right turns the bottle off. I'm going to leave it on for the minute because I've got a few things working at the moment to show you. 2023 is the age of these of this hose, and that means that you've got till, well, you've got 5 years on this, so you've got till 28 to replace it. Down underneath here, whilst we're just here, we've got your freshwater drain off just here, and your wastewater drain off is the grey one just over there to the right. Carrying on the near side, you've got the table which comes out from just there. You've also got this other one which opens up and then locks in place over here, so that's like a drain off point, which is quite clever because it's got a nice if I just show you, it's got a drain that comes out. So if I lock this in place just for the minute, it's got a drain that comes out from there, so you can use it as a full-on draining board, and then whatever goes down the drain hole will actually go into the waste tank. So it's a really, really clever design. I've never actually seen one do it like that before. Just basically pops into place there. This switch just here does your lights overhead, just in case you weren't aware of that. So no lockers behind there. The awning is color coded to match the color of the body, and is an Omnistore awning, which means, to be honest, it's just a better design. Well, not a better design, but it's a nicer design where it sits up onto the roof like that, so it's not bulbous at all on the side of the vehicle, so you haven't got to sort of watch out in the mirror to see how close you are to stuff, because it's kind of in line with the body, which I think is quite nice. Right, at the back, I've got all these cushions out here for this right hand locker down here, because I've got a few things I want to show you when we get into the vehicle, so I'll do that when we get there. But at the back, got the storage locker underneath. There's like a double skinned section at the back. Other than that, it's not, you know, there's not really much to show you under there. It's just that lots of storage down there. So the off side of the vehicle is where most of the kind of appliance bits and pieces are, which is quite nice as well, having it all on the one side rather than going back and forward. This vent just here is your boiler vent. So I've got the boiler lit up on gas at the moment, and you can see there's some condensation forming on the vehicle there. So the reason that is because the actual exhaust part is just inside this little bit here at the top, and the hot air pumps out through the sides and out the top. So if you wanted to double check that it was definitely working, pop your hand over there and you can feel nice warm air coming out of it. That's just one way of checking. You have also got this cover down here. If you're not using the boiler, you can pop this cover on, cover it up. But if you go to use the boiler, you need to make sure that you definitely take that off before you start trying to light it up. Hookup point. So I've got the hookup plugged in at the moment. This will give us access to using quite a few extra bits and pieces in this vehicle in particular. But anything that runs off the mains power, you will need the hookup plugged in, and the battery charger will come to life as soon as you plug that in as well. Then got your toilet cassette locker, again lined with the same fabric as the gas locker. So you've got a separate flush system on here, so you need to pull this out and make sure that you've got your pink pre-mixed fluid in here. To check the level of that fluid, you've got this little level indicator over here, which you can drain it out from as well. So by pouring it out like that, we'll drain it out. You need to push it back up into there and then push it into here. So this is your level indicator. You need to leave that around where it is now or a little bit higher is the perfect level. To take the actual toilet cassette out, push down and pull the cassette towards you. You'll then be able to take it all the way out. The only thing I really need to show you is that you drain it out from here. So this cap comes off and you drain it out from there. And when you're actually physically draining it out, hold down the little yellow button down there whilst you're draining it. And that's about it really. There's a rubber seal just in there, that little O-ring there. You need to keep on top of lubricating that with some kind of a silicone lubricant. Same as all of the little rubber trims around the locker doors here as well. Important is just give them a quick spray of rubber sealant, rubber lubricant as often as you can really. Just keeps them from splitting and getting dry. The fridge vents are just here. I've got the fridge working on electric at the moment because I've got the hookup plugged in. Really, I should have these little covers off. So to take those off, you just basically turn those 90 degrees, 1, 2, same at the bottom, and they'll just pull off. It's important that you take those off because it gets the air flowing from the top to the bottom and allows the fridge to get properly cold. Freshwater inlet point, I've got it off at the moment. Putting it on is literally just push it in around to the right and then you can lock it up. But that's where you put your fresh water in. So that's about it for the outside. The cab is pretty simple, to be fair. It's nice and straightforward on these slightly older chassis. You've got the 5-speed manual gearbox. So reverse on this one is down to the bottom right. All of your blowers are up there. You have got one there to the right and one over on the other side there, as well as your windscreen blowers at the end down there. Hazard lights work from the middle just there. The only thing I will run you through briefly, if you haven't driven one of these particular vehicles before, bit of a strange layout on the lights and indicators, whereas they'd normally be on the same one stalk. You've got the indicators on this bottom one here at the front, so that's just indicators, and the one at the back is actually your flash and full beam. So you use this one to flash and put your full beam on by pulling it down, and this one here just for your indicators. Washers on the right, and your lights from down here. Fog lamp from that switch just there. and it should have the front for the radio. Yeah, so the front for the radio is in this box just in here. And there we go. So, if I turn around now, get into the back. So as soon as you walk in the sliding door, you can walk through to the back of the vehicle and get straight to your control panel, which is where I'm going to start this part. So the main on and off switch just here is in the middle, as you can see. When you press that, you get this little screen coming up here, just basically running you through what's going on at that specific time. So on the left hand side there, it tells you straight away the fresh water level. So at the moment we've got half a tank of fresh water. If I want to get into a sort of more bigger part just telling me about the fresh water level, I press this little button just here and it comes up telling us the actual percentage, which is 40%. The other one that's showing us on the right hand side here is the leisure battery voltage. So if I press this button just down here, it comes up telling us the vehicle battery voltage and the leisure battery voltage. So the vehicle battery is at 13.7 and the leisure is at 13. So that's telling me that having the hookup plugged in is actually charging the engine and leisure batteries at the same time, which is really, really helpful. A lot of them are just wired up to the leisure only, but obviously it makes a huge difference having both being charged up by the hookup. If the hookup cable wasn't plugged in, you can expect both of these batteries to be around 12 to 12 and a half. But yeah, so that's your charging rate just there. You've then got program switch, which you don't need to press really, apart from if you're going to set alarms or, you know, all that sort of stuff. But like I said, you don't really need to do that. If you want to go ahead and turn the 12-volt switch on, that'll then give you access to using all of your lights and any sort of 12-volt fed things like ignition, all that sort of stuff. You've then got your water pump switch. Now I've got the water pump switch on at the moment, and that's telling me that the system is up to pressure. If the water pump switch is on and the pump itself, which is just here, isn't actually running, it means that you're up to pressure and the pump has turned itself off, which is perfect. The last one is aux. When you press that, it'll basically just give power to, you know, maybe if something's been added aftermarket, it might take power from that. But to be honest with you, just turning the 12-volt switch on just there, it was probably going to power everything up. So that is that. So the next thing I normally talk about is the pump. So once you've turned that pump switch on, like I was saying, the pump isn't running right now, and that tells me that the system is up to pressure. If the pump was running all the time after I turn the pump switch on, what you need to do is go through a couple of steps to work out why it's constantly running. If you come over to your tap just here and pull the water through, I'll wait for the pump to start up. So the pump's just kicked in. At the moment, I'm over to the cold side. So now it's telling me that the cold side of the system is nice and pressurized. If I go to the hot, let's see if that's got good pressure as well. So yeah, good pressure in both sides of the system. A little bit of air there coming out, but now I can turn that off. The pump will run on for a minute and then turn itself off again. There you go. So that pump turning itself off like that is telling me, proving to me, that the system is now up to complete pressure. So the reason I went hot and cold just there is because I need to make sure that the boiler is actually full of water before I can turn it on. If when I turned the pump to the tap there to the hot side and the pump was just running and no water was coming out through the tap, you can then know that the boiler is completely empty of water, and you need to just leave it there basically until the water starts coming back out. So if I just explain that, down here by the boiler, you've got a little yellow tab. So this little yellow tab, if I lifted that upright so it was vertical rather than laying flat, I would be draining out all the water from the boiler. The reason you would need to do that is if you're going to leave the vehicle over winter and you wanted to drain the water out from this boiler so that it doesn't expand and crack any pipes. A good thing about this particular vehicle, what I have just noticed, is that all of these pipes are actually the soft pipe rather than the rigid. Now that's a good thing really, because they will have a little bit more movement in them to expand and contract, whereas a lot of the rigid pipes that you see mostly fitted, if they have water inside of them and they freeze, they will just crack, which you can imagine is pretty easy to do. So that's what that little boiler drain's for there. If you're going to leave the vehicle over winter and you don't want any water in here in order to expand, lift it upright and it'll drain all the water out. But like I said, you need to make sure that the boiler's full of water before you can actually switch it on. So going to the tap there and pulling the hot side of the tap with the pump on, if you get water coming through at good pressure at the tap, it means that this boiler is full up. And vice versa, if you don't get any water coming through on the hot side, it means it's not quite full yet, and you just need to leave it on until it does. So that's the boiler there and the pump. This is just a little strainer on the side of the pump, just in case you weren't aware. It's not really a filter as such, it's just literally a strainer for any big bits and pieces that might run through it. It's a Trail King 7, 16 psi. So another good thing about this, by the way, is that if you ever needed to replace this pump, which is a really straight, happens all the time, it's a consumable item. If you ever needed to replace this pump in the future, this is a seriously easy place to do it. A lot of the time in the motorhomes, you'll see they're under the fridge or under the sink, so it's so awkward to get to them, but this is really, really helpful. So that is that. Also here, under this seat, whilst we're here, again, just a really, really well thought out layout. This is all of the electrical bits and pieces that you need to worry about in this entire vehicle, so they're all in the one place. So on the left hand side here, we've got your trip switches. So when the electric hookup's plugged in, the power's running directly to this, going through the RCDs and MCBs, and then just going off to where they need to go to. So this is where all of the 240 volt power gets diverted from and to. So if you take this little cover off, if any of these are in a down position or showing green, they're off, and if they're upright and showing red, they're on. So it's just like any household trip switch. So that's what that is. The one to the right of that, the black box there, it's a CBE charger. So anytime that you've got this red light inside here, it's telling you that the charger is on and working. If you're hooked up and that red light isn't on, you can be sure that it's not working at all. So you can have a little look in here, make sure they're all in the upright position, make sure the button's pressed in. Otherwise, give us a call if that stops working. But they are pretty reliable units. I can imagine this is probably the original one that's been fitted from new. You've then got to the right of that your 12 volt sort of power supply unit for the 12 volt, if you like. So it's your fuse box essentially. So everything that's run via the 12 volt power gets diverted through there. There is a little symbol next to each one of those fuses and a number telling you what it's for and what size it should be. So if in the future you got any issues and you wanted to check that yourself, just make sure they're all okay, make sure they're the right size, etc. It's very, very easy to do that. You can then pull this down, lock it in position, and put your cushions back on whenever you like. So again, really, really simple how to use. This little bit just here opens up and is your TV unit. There is this little bit here which holds it out in position. Now, again, very, very well thought out how to actually, keep it nice and secure. It should fold out and move, but I'm not going to do it just now. But that's where that is. So you've also got the TV aerial booster in there, and there should be an on and off switch for that. There you go. So you've got the power going to that, and obviously the TV aerial will be on the roof as we speak anyway. Okay, so assuming that you've checked that there's water in the boiler by doing what I showed you earlier, you can then come over to these two dials just here and get your heating and hot water working. So the heating itself is gas only. The boiler is gas or electric. All right, but the heating is gas only. So if we go through the heating first, so you've basically got on the left hand side here, small or large flame. I'm gonna leave it on small for the minute. You've then got your temperature setting, so 5 through to 30. And then you've got your either just fan or heating. So if I go down, essentially all we get is cool air pumping out through this vent. If I go up, so back to the middle and then up, the fan comes back on again, but after 5-10 seconds or so, you'll hear an igniter going and it will light up and then start pumping out hot air. So if we just wait for that for a minute. Any second now. There you go. So it's basically just lit up and it will carry on pumping out the hot air until we get to whatever temperature we've set it to. And that is it. That's how you use the heating. So I'll leave that on just for a minute. The one below that, Truma Ultra Store, is the boiler. So even more simple than the top one. All you have to do is press up to turn it on and set your temperature 30 through to 70. So I can set that to whatever I want. That's lit straight up. I just heard it light up. And that is all you have to do. You just literally wait for that to heat the water up that's inside the boiler and you have hot water at your taps. The other way to use the boiler is this little switch down here. So if you've got the hookup plugged in, which I do at the moment, turn the switch on just there and the boiler straight away just basically starts heating up an element inside of it and starts to heat the water up via the 240 volt power. So if you are in a real hurry for hot water, you can use both at the same time. But the one thing I will say, make sure that you switch this off every single time you finish with it, because if you plug the hookup cable into the vehicle, forgetting that you've got this switched on, if you haven't got any water in the boiler, you know, it's going to overheat basically. So if I was you, please make sure to turn that off when you are finished with it, so that you don't forget that you've left it on by accident, if that makes sense. But that is how you use the boiler on either gas or electric. So that's what those two dials are for there. The bottom one, like I said, is the boiler, switch that off. The top one is for the heating, switch that off. So that is your heating and hot water. The cooking section, so you've got the 4-burner hob up here. All 4 burners have got their own dial over here on the right hand side, and to actually light them up, push in and turn like any household cooker, but your ignition for those is this switch just here. That is also the ignition for the oven and grill. So push in and round to the right for the grill, push in and round to the left for the oven. All right. In fact, just thinking about it, you might have a separate ignition for those. Yeah. Okay, so I'll take that back. This switch up here is only the ignition for the 4 burners at the top. You get an automatic ignition when you push in and round on this one here for the grill or the oven. So if I do the grill, give it a little blow in there to light up. There you go. So that's another good thing to show you. So every now and again when you light the grill up, you'll notice, or you might not notice, but you need to keep your eye that it actually lights up both sides. So the actual igniter itself, I'll show you. The igniter itself is on this side. It's just here. All right. So what will happen is it will light up this side first, this row, and not the other side sometimes. If it doesn't quite light up the other side, you need to basically just turn it off and try it again. There you go. So you saw it there. It lit up the other side as well. The reason you have to make sure that it lights up the other side is because the thermocouple, which allows it to stay on like it is now, because I've let go of that now and it's staying on, the thermocouple actually sits on the other side. So if it doesn't light up the other side as well, it will not stay on when you let go of it. Okay, so just the only way really to make sure that it's definitely worked is you can see that this end piece is lit as well. if the other side hasn't lit up, this little bit at the end here won't be lit. So I hope that makes sense. So you can turn that off by pulling it back to the middle, and then you can light the oven up the same way by going the other way, just like that. So you need to leave that just for a minute to warm up. So I'm still holding, and then let go. And there you go. So that is how you use the oven and grill. Lots of storage down there. And what have we got down here? Okay, so there might be gas isolators in here. Yeah, so these little gas isolators down here are for the individual gas appliances. So in the paperwork there should be a little diagram telling you which one does what. So basically just turning those 90 degrees will isolate the gas to whichever appliance you want to isolate. You don't need to do that every time you get out of the vehicle or anything like that. You only ever need to do that if you think there's a specific issue with a certain appliance. So if you, for example, if you thought one of these burners was leaking gas, so when you turn the gas bottle on you could smell gas coming out from here even when you haven't turned it on, you can isolate this hob section here so that you can turn the gas on and not worry about it and carry on with doing what you're doing. That's the only reason you need to use those isolators. Turning the gas bottle off in the locker isolates it completely from everything anyway, so you do not need to turn all of these off for any reason other than if there's an issue. So the bathroom, I'll just show you in here. So really nice quality, really well kept. Sometimes you'll find if these motorhomes haven't been looked after very well, that these plastic sink units and sort of like vanity mirrors and things can get quite easily broken. But this, all being in good nick, tells me it's been looked after by the previous owners. So the sink, you'll notice, hasn't actually got a drain in it. That's because the drains sit down the back in these little gullies. So if I pour the water through, cold and then hot, I can fill it up as much as I want, turn the tap off, lift it up, and then all you have to do is slowly pour this down the back, and the water will drain out down the little gullies there into the waste tank. Same idea with the shower. Obviously you've got the drain down there and the shower tray just comes out from there, and you can extend it, move it wherever you want to. And the toilet, really simple. Push the button down to get your flush fluid, and then twist to drain it into the cassette. So push down and then twist it back to close it up. And that is it. Right, the only thing I do need to point out to you in the bathroom here, when we were doing the habitation check, the little vent up here was all broken up and had a little tiny fan inside of it, which is what this little switch here is for. So that switch now doesn't do anything at all because there's no fan in there. This does still act as a nice vent, so if you are using the shower in here and things like that, that will still vent out that hot air quite nicely. But I just thought I'd point out to you, this switch here is now completely irrelevant. All right, so I'll turn the switch off there, which does the bathroom lights. So the last thing I need to show you really, I think, is the fridge. Just make sure there's nothing else I'm missing. No, okay. Loads and loads of storage in this vehicle, as you've probably seen already. But there we go. So the fridge is a three-way fridge. It's an Electrolux, which I think is part of Dometic now. So three-way fridge, meaning it works on 240 volt electric, 12 volt electric, or gas. So because I've got the electric hookup plugged in at the moment, I might as well use the fridge on the mains because the power's already there. I can also use it on the 12 volt, which is the way that you need to use it whilst you're driving. or I can light the fridge up on gas and then cool it down like that. Like I said, if you've got the electric hookup plugged in, you might as well use it up, because it's already, the power's already there. Basically, you're not really going to be wasting anything. If you don't have electric hookup, the only other way to actually cool the fridge down itself is going down to the gas. Once you've gone down to the gas, assuming you've got the gas switched on in the locker, you'll see the ignition starts. All you then need to do is push this button in until the igniter stops. There you go. So in person, you can actually hear that it lights up. You probably can't hear it on the video, but I just heard it just then. The ignition stopped. That's telling me that the flame is lit. I'm just holding this in now for a second. I've let go of it and it's still off. So that means that the flame is on. You can then basically just leave that for a few hours and the fridge will cool down. And that's how you use it on the gas. So, like I said, the 240 volt and the gas are the only two ways that this fridge will get cold. The 12 volt one there only retains the temperature whilst you're driving. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Once you have cooled it down and you want to start the engine up and drive off, all you need to do is switch over to the 12 volt. When you switch over to the 12 volt, the gas there turns itself straight off, and you haven't got to do anything to turn the gas off. You haven't got to turn this dial or anything like that. As soon as you take this away from the gas symbol down here, the gas flame is off. But like I said, at the moment, I've got the electric hookup plugged in, so I'm going to leave it on that one. Or actually, I'm going to turn it off because I'm nearly finished. But that is how you use the fridge. You've got a nice little fire extinguisher just there, nicely tucked away. In my opinion, if I was doing the hab check, I'd probably say to you that that should be in a more accessible place, really. Although saying that, I don't really know where it would go, so that's probably the best place for it, as long as you can remember where it is. Well, what else have we got? Anything else? The skylight back here above the bed. If I just show you how these work, so you push the button up to release those handles. Same on that side. Pull the arm down here and then push it up. That should then, actually it needs a strut in it, but that will basically then hold itself up once we replace those struts there, and you can leave it up wherever you want it. When it comes back down, close them back up again until they lock, and that's it. I'll replace those struts now. But yeah, so I think that's about it really. If there's anything you think I've missed out or anything you'd like going through again, just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon to collect your van. Thanks very much.